Welcome to Prince Jordan House. Exercise number 101 and 102. Sir Kailash Chandra, 140 words a minute, total 2000 words. Be ready? Start. Mr. Deputy Chairman, there is no dispute in regard to the question that the working journalists had been suffering for long and that they need legal protection in their profession. As they were suffering, government appointed the press commission, and as a result of the recommendations of the press commission, we are here discussing this bill today to safeguard their interests. Now our aim is to protect them from their employers. This bill gives them protection under the Industrial Disputes Act. As the operation for so many years of this act was in the hands of the Labor Department or the Labor Ministry, that department and that ministry are fully aware how it should be operated, as there have been lot of difficulties and lot of differences of opinion between one court in one state and the other court in the other state in regard to one item and one interpretation. The interpretation is required to be incorporated in this bill as to what is meant by a workman. The Industrial Disputes Act has given the definition of the term workman, but it has been interpreted by different courts in different states in different ways. Now again we are dealing with two parties, and one party is the employer. In the definition of the employer also we do not find if we can properly put the directors or the managers as the employers. Now this bill has tried to exclude certain staff and certain people doing certain jobs. Sir, the intention of this measure is to safeguard the interest of the working journalists by bringing them under the purview of the Industrial Disputes Act, by which they will be provided with certain machinery where they can go for the redress of their grievances. Sir, we must take sure that working journalists may not be defined as employers instead of as workmen. As we say here, an employer is one who is employed in a managerial or administrative capacity. There is bound to be difficulty. I will cite an example. Now, a working journalist might get two typists in his office, and he may have three peons. He may be actually a supervisor acting on behalf of the manager also. Now he is performing two jobs. He himself is working and he is also performing the work entrusted to him by the manager or the managing director. If such a person has got any grievance, he goes to this machinery that is to be appointed under this bill, and he is entitled to get relief. But as he is partially employed as manager, he may be denied that right. Therefore, I am afraid that whatever we may try to do, we must be very specific in this matter. I think we should say that the working journalist means a person whose principal avocation is what of a journalist, etc., etc., and then they are also termed as workmen under the Industrial Disputes Act. Otherwise, we will be faced with that sort of difficulty as others trade unions are experiencing in their day-to-day work in the appellate tribunal or the industrial tribunal or in other courts. I hope that the minister in charge of this bill will consult the labor minister, who is an expert in this matter, as to how to safeguard really the interest of these people by putting a proper definition for the working journalists. Now I have got another point. Really this should have been brought forward by the labor department, as they have been operating the Industrial Disputes Act. Under the Industrial Disputes Act, we have got some machinery which has got to come into being when there is a dispute. Now under the existing Industrial Disputes Act, the appropriate government has got to order in writing to this machinery as the working journalist, as spread over throughout the country. I am not clear in my mind whether for the purpose of the working journalists this Industrial Disputes Act will be operated by the central government or by the state governments. Both the central and the state governments have their own machinery, from the Chief Labour Commission to the Reconciliation Officer. The Government of India has got a set of machinery throughout the country, and again the state governments have got their own Labour Commissioner and other officers. I want that also must be specifically provided in this bill as to whether they have got to go to the central government or to the state governments for the redress of their grievances. Now the tribunals are not permitted to undertake any case as soon as it is referred by either of the parties unless it is specifically ordered by the appropriate government. Now my own opinion is that for the time being it should be operated by the Labour Minister of the central government. Neither the Information and Broadcasting Minister nor the state governments should operate this, because it is a new thing incorporated by the central government, and the Government of India knows what for they are coming forward with this piece of legislation. I want that the Information Ministry should hand over this business to the Labour Ministry, which should operate this through its own machinery. Sir, anyone who knows anything of journalism in this country will welcome the protection that this bill gives to working journalists. There is no doubt that their present lot is a hard one, and that it is difficult sometimes even for the best of them to discharge their duties honestly, but the remarks made by my honorable friend make me anxious to understand the scope of the bill. My honorable friend spoke of the protection given to editors who expressed their views freely, even though they may be unpalatable to the proprietors of their paper. Sir, is it really the object of this bill to make the working journalists to decide the policy of the paper to which they are now attached? Next para. Madam, I rise to support the railway budget presented by Shri Jose Fernandez for the year 2010-11. Shri Jose Fernandez has his association with the railways for the last 60 years as a labor leader. As a labor leader, most of his energy was concentrated in making demands on behalf of the workers of the railways. Now he has been put in a position to look after the affairs of the railways as also the well-being of the workers who are working with the railways. Since he is at the helm of affairs, since he was a labor leader and his words carry weight with the workers, I hope under his stewardship the workers of the railways would perform better, would do their job better, and would see that the railways perform better. In this way, not only would the railways satisfy the people who travel, but also the functioning of the railways in general would improve. The Indian railways are the biggest networking in the whole of Asia and the second largest in the world. Not only the Indian railways are big in size, but their problems are also big in proportion to their size, and the things that the people want the Indian railways to do for them are also big. Sir, Mr. Fernandez on the 2nd of February had come out with a status paper wherein he has given the current position of the Indian railways, the problems that the Indian railways are facing, and also the innumerable demands, including the demand for providing employment on a large scale in the railways to the employed. I hope that in this discussion on the railway budget, the participants would offer some constructive, useful and practical suggestions. Mr. Jose Fernandez, when he had to prepare and present this budget, had very little time to do that, probably less than 100 days. But even within that short period, sir, he has come out with some new ideas, with a new approach with regard to the functioning of the railways. He has laid emphasis in the budget on modernization, on energy conservation, and on computerization whenever it is necessary. Though he has expressed his helplessness in providing more jobs to the unemployed in the railways, he has tried to generate jobs outside the railways with the help of the railways. It may relate to afforestation and things like that. He has extended the computerization of bookings from the present 4 metropolitan cities to 5 more cities, among which Bangalore is included. Whenever an air accident takes place, the compensation that is paid is very high. What Mr. Fernandez has done is that in the case of the railway accident also, he has raised the amount of compensation from the present rate of 1 lakh rupees to 2 lakhs of rupees in incidents. Whether it is the rail accident or air accident, the loss of life is the same, and any life lost can never be recovered. Another thing that is to be welcomed is that he is going to provide more accommodation and more seats to the second class passengers by gradually withdrawing the first class AC coaches and the first class coaches. I hope while withdrawing these facilities and extending them to the second class passengers, the existing comforts and facilities of the second class would further improve. I hope in all second class carriages cushion seats are going to be provided. Socialism is not traveling down, but socialism is leveling up. When we withdraw facilities from the higher level, the facilities for the lower level should be improved so that the traveling comforts for the lower level improve. Another innovative idea that Shri George Fernandez has thought of amidst the constraint of resources is financing the West Coast railway line, which is popularly called the Konkan railway line. This railway line was initiated when Professor Madhu Dandavate was the railway minister about 12 years ago. Once that government went out of power, this scheme got put into cold storage. Of course, in the last year's budget, Shri Madhav Scindia had made some provision for construction of the line from Mangalore to Udupi, but the construction work did not start. Now Shri George Fernandez has come out with a novel idea of associating the states which are going to benefit out of it, namely Maharashtra, Goa and Karnataka, by raising certain contributions from these 3 states, by raising certain contributions from the public and certain contributions from the railways as well as from the general exchequer. If this scheme had not been thought of, and if this had not been taken up in the normal course and under the normal procedure, this railway construction would have taken 15 years to complete. Now that a new method of financing this project has been initiated, the railway minister has promised that construction of this railway line is going to be completed within 5 years. I wish that this scheme succeeds, not that it succeeds for the sake of the Konkan railway, but this would open up a new era for taking up other essential constructions where those projects could not be taken up because of shortage of funds. I hope the railway minister, who is a person of many sides, many innovative ideas, would also think in terms of a possible self-financing schemes. Every year cost go up. Any project that is done today is cheaper than it would be tomorrow. He in his status paper has asked whether the money should come from the central government or whether it should come from the Railway Finance Corporation or from market borrowings, where it is going to cost a little more. In any case, I personally feel that these projects, important projects, should not lag behind on the ground of funds not coming from the central government or state governments. Even if it is costly, the money should be borrowed from the Railway Finance Corporation. Stop.